I had a little bit of a hiccup with the camera this morning. Okay, we're going to be talking about the situation with Jamaal Bowman and his pulling the fire alarm in an painfully obvious maneuver to interfere with an official proceeding. And we'll talk a little bit about why that's actually really important. So y'all stick around. It's going to be a good one. Good morning. I see several of you. Uh-oh. I think I'm getting bleed through. Okay, there it is. Got the bleed through fixed. I say Cameron's watching this morning. Good morning. And I see Pit Danny watching over on Rumble. And I see the numbers over there, guys. Y'all give me some comments on Rumble so I know who's watching. Pit Danny's got first blood. I see Trish with a good morning there. Good morning. Ma. And Cameron says beep. And, whew. Oh, Cameron says the jalapeno salt has been super popular with his coworkers. That's excellent. And Tim Lowry says, this should be good. By the way, I'm typing this in my flip-flop. I'm not entirely sure what you mean there, my man, but here's what we're going to talk about. So, a thing happened, and it's funny, almost because it shouldn't be, almost because it's not funny, and the naked hypocrisy of it is definitely part of what we're talking about. And Ma, I can hook you up with some jalapeno salt. Trish sent us a pretty substantial amount. But we'll get to that another time. Anyway, so what happened was, on the face of it, Representative Jamaal Bowman triggered a fire alarm in a House office building amid voting on a funding bill. So, of course, big news lately has been that we're coming up on the annual government shutdown, which, in my opinion, honestly, we should declare it a national holiday. We should be barbecuing and lighting off firecrackers and everything else, like it's the 4th of July every time there's a government shutdown. And frankly, it looks like that's just going to be an annual thing. A piece of that is what's really happened is way back at the beginning of the Obama administration, they decided that threatening to shut down the government was a great way politically to take hostages and try to force action. And part of that force has to do with, quite simply, artificially creating a panic among the American people, and most especially, and this is just hilarious because it's symptomatic of the Democrat voter, but it creates a panic most especially in the Democrat voter who wrongfully believes, because this just isn't how things work, that that their welfare benefits will be stopped if the government shuts down. They're afraid that they won't get their food stamps and all their stolen money won't come in if the government shuts down. Sergeant Major points out it started before Obama. It started before Obama. That's correct, Dad. But it has become a habit since they first tried to do it in the original maneuvers to pass Obamacare. You know, back before we learned from the little pudgy pickle boy that the whole point to Obamacare was for it to fail because it was the step on the road toward more socialism and communism. Anyway, so every year we get threatened with a government shutdown. And the point to it, a big part of the point to it, is to get the Democrat voter base scared about losing their welfare benefits for a short period of time. And it gets them motivated, gets them out in the street, gets them making noise. It's becoming less and less effective. You know, the boy who cried wolf thing, it's, a lot like the Pound Me Too movement. The more often you tell the same lie, the less likely that lie is to be believed. But they keep telling the same lie. Well, this time around, it looks like a deal has been negotiated to temporarily extend continuing resolutions and keep the government open a little bit longer, but there's some crying and some hand wringing because that continuing resolution, that temporary continuing resolution, does not include any funding for the Ukrainian money laundering machine. So of course it's going to be Rep. Jamaal Bowman. I guess it's his time. It's just, hey, you're not going much further than this, Junior. So you're going to be the sacrificial lamb. You're the one we're going to throw under the bus. And they're playing it. They're trying to play it like it's an honest mistake. Which, I mean, guys, come on. They want us to believe. All right, here's his story. I made a mistake. I didn't understand simple things, like the English language, for example. This door was locked, and I didn't think it was supposed to be locked, and I thought that the handle next to the door would unlock the door. I didn't understand what that handle was. We've all seen fire alarms. We recognize fire alarms when we see them. They're red. They have the handle that you pull. And just in case you're not sure what a fire alarm looks like, they conveniently, let me pull up a picture. They don't all look exactly the same. But let's see. It looks like the vast majority of them, oh, hey, what do you know? They have the word fire or fire alarm on them, right? Like, here's a great example. Fire alarm, pull down, right? Fire alarm, pull down. It's labeled. It says what it is. So we're expected to believe that among all of the other confusion, this dumb son of a bitch can't read. Now, in all fairness, he is black, right? He is black, so maybe we should extend him some benefit of the doubt. After all, Stacey Abrams sued the government of the state of Georgia arguing that exact match name tests on voter registration cards was unconstitutional and illegal and unreasonable discrimination because, and this is the argument that notorious voter fraudster and voting fraud organizational leader Stacey Abrams, continuous election denier Stacey Abrams, black woman Stacey Abrams, filed the lawsuit against the state of Georgia, alleging that it's unfair to exact match names on voter registrations because black people can't spell their names very well. This is not an accusation that I'm making. This is a lawsuit that was filed by Stacey Abrams. It's not fair to expect black people to be able to spell their names. That's racist. So I suppose, tongue-in-cheek, we can give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. But here's what really triggers, if you're paying attention. Democratic Rep. Jamaal Bowman acknowledged triggering a fire alarm Saturday on one of the U.S. Capitol office buildings as lawmakers scrambled to pass a bill to fund the government before the midnight shutdown deadline. The fire alarm sounded out around noon in the Cannon House office building and prompted a building-wide evacuation at a time when the House was in session and staffers are working in the building. The building was reopened an hour later after Capitol Police determined it was not a threat. So, January 6th, they stopped the vote to certify the electors temporarily. Within an hour, they were back in there. They had their vote. They certified the electors. I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole about legitimacy and all that, about the election, the 2020 steal and all that. But many of the January 6th defendants who have, in fact, been charged, indicted, and convicted were convicted on the charge of interfering with an official government proceeding. This happened more than a day ago. Tell me, why is Jamaal Bowman not currently sitting in an isolation cell in solitary confinement, awaiting trial for the next 2 to 3 years without an arraignment, without due process, without charges even being filed, over his obvious and intentional commission of the precise same crime? It's funny until it's not, because what you have here is just more glaring evidence that the rule of law, in fact, the law itself, has been functionally abolished. There are no more law enforcement officers. They no longer exist. They are political enforcement officers. Law enforcement officers are no longer a legitimate existential object. They were abolished with the law in service of the narrative of the January 6th activity. The May 20 something, the insurrection of the May prior to January 6th, when mask-wearing, psychotic leftist extremists firebombed the White House, set fire to the church, and none of them have been arrested, prosecuted, even detained or questioned, as far as we know. But American citizens seeking to petition their government for a redress of grievances have sat without trial and in solitary confinement for years, for over 2 years. Some have been convicted. Others are still sitting in a cell awaiting due process. They've been denied that due process. They have been cruelly and unusually treated simply by being confined in that way without due process. But here you have a Democrat, a black Democrat, and he is allowed with impunity to simply choose to shut off an official proceeding. Oh, they got back in there within an hour, and yeah, but guess what? They got back into the Capitol within an hour and completed the proceeding. Sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander. And quite simply, the law no longer exists. Cameron, you keep saying beep. I don't know what you're referencing, and I'm not going to address it again, but if there's something wrong with the audio or something that I need to know, I need it less cryptically. And I just smoked my coffee. That's why I have paper towels at the ready. There we go. So, fire alarms don't go beep. They go bah. I don't know what more I can say on the subject except to summarize the fact is this: Jamaal Bowman is a criminal, a substantial criminal, who has committed a federal crime based not on my opinion, but on the precedent set by the court. He should be arrested, remanded to custody immediately, and treated like a January 6th protester has been. Because that's what he did. If what any of the January 6th protesters did constitutes a crime, then that is the crime that Jamaal Bowman has committed. If Jamaal Bowman is not guilty of a crime for having intentionally interfered with an official proceeding, then all of the January 6th political prisoners must be freed immediately. And absent those terms and conditions, the fact of the matter is that there are no more police. There are only political operatives. There are political enforcement agents. If you are a law enforcement officer, currently, you are not even able to enforce the law evenly. The system of justice to which you would remand a citizen to custody and abuse is designed now to prevent you, if you think you're a good cop, the system is designed to prevent you from doing the job that you believe you're supposed to do. The police have been abolished. And it's been done by the same politicians who funded protest movements demanding the abolition of the police. The defund the police movement has so deeply infiltrated our government institutions that rather than defund the police, they have converted them into the militating arm of the Democrat National Committee and the World Economic Forum agenda. Welcome to America. Exercise your Second Amendment because it's the only safety you have left. And before I get too much darker on that, I am going to go ahead and cut this one early, also because I have to get to the north side of Atlanta pretty fast and do some work. Thanks for watching this morning, guys. Thanks for your time. I love you, and we will see you tomorrow. That one.